Hey there, and welcome back. Today I am back with my MGA barn find project. I started this project in 2019, and it's been 2 years since I worked on it. But luckily, the me from 2 years ago did order parts, and I had them waiting for me. So let's continue this long-awaited project and get it finished by spring. 2 videos ago, this car did become slightly drivable. There's still no water in the engine, so it can't run for a long time, but I did start it up and drive it to where it is right now. So as you can see, it does still run. It doesn't sound that bad, but me from 2 years ago thought that I needed to fix up the ignition system. So let's start with that. The parts of the ignition system don't look as old as some cars I've worked on. These wires are still somewhat flexible, but on these MGs, I like to put on top loading distributor caps, which also means that I need to change the coil. With the top loading distributor caps, I can use normal spark plug wires. I will be replacing the spark plugs as well. Here's a new rotor. So we'll have to change the coil so that it uses the same type of push-on wires that the distributor cap is now going to use. And so I have a set of those right here as well. I previously marked which of these wires went to which cylinder, so it's safe to pull the cap off, and then we'll just have to make sure that we hook them up in the same order that the old one is when we put the new cap on. That's what the end of the wire in the coil looks like. It should have had a little washer on it. I do have a new points and condenser, but because they're working so well still after 2 years, I'm going to leave them alone at this point. I have all of the other parts out, the spark plug wires, the spark plugs, the cap, the rotor. Now I need to get to this coil and remove that. Just like on the early MGB, the coil on the MGA mounts to a plate that mounts to the motor mount. I'm going to try to leave the plate in place and see if I can get those 2 bolts out that hold the coil in. I might get lucky this time. Looks like I can just pull the coil out of the bracket. Then if I take the new coil out of the bracket, looks like the new coil is quite a bit smaller than the old one, so I will have to swap the brackets. Well, it's not too bad to remove that bracket. I used a ratcheting wrench and a combination wrench. You do only have to take 1 bolt out because these brackets are slotted, so you just have to loosen one of the other sides. This one was slotted 90 degrees from each other, unlike most of them that you see where the slots are the same direction. So that threw me off for a second there. Now that the new coil is installed, I need to hook up the wires in the correct polarity. You can see that there's a plus sign on this side, so I just need to match these wires up to the correct side on the new coil. If you find an old British car and you're wondering if it is negative ground or not, this is a good place to look. This is the wire that runs down to the distributor, and since it's positive, so that means the points in the distributor are connecting it to ground, that means this car is connected positive ground. This would be hooked up on the negative side on more modern cars or British cars that have been converted to negative ground. Inside the coil, there's that little washer that should have been on the wire. So this washer should have been attached to the end of this wire, and when you screw this down into the coil, it'll make sure that the wire is actually conducting from the coil through the wire down to the distributor. I have the new spark plugs in, the new rotor and cap. Now I need to clock the distributor cap correctly. The wires that run in on this upper level go to these corners on this old cap, and these ones that come on this lower level go into the upper corners here on this old cap. So I have this arranged the same way that is mounted, where we have our notch here to the right side, and then I can look at the ends of the cables to see how many dots they have on them to let me know. For example, this one in this corner, which correlates to this one here, goes to cylinder number 1. And it looks like this cable is the longest one. So I'll take the longest of the new cables and put it on cylinder 1. And now that we know which number is number 1, these should go in the correct firing order. This one here says number 3, number 4, and number 2. So I can get rid of the cap. And since I know the firing order, the next one will be number 3. And it looks like that is probably going to be the closest to the spark plug, so I'm going to choose the smallest of the spark plug wires. Our next one will be 4, so that has a pretty short distance, so that'll be the second shortest wire. And our last one is number 2. I like testing upgrades as we go, and so now since this is back in running condition, let's start the engine and make sure we didn't do anything wrong. Waiting for the fuel bowls to fill up. Pump has stopped clicking. Still runs. Now we can move on to one of the scariest things to do on an old car. Yes, old cars leak oil, fuel, and brake fluid, but they're most likely to leak water, especially on these cars. We have, of course, radiators, which like to leak on old cars. And then, of course, we have the old hoses. These hoses look like they were brand new, and the car has not been driven with these hoses yet, but they are very old. And we have, of course, the water pumps that leak when the bearings go bad. These heater valves here like to leak. As you can see, the heater core is not hooked up right now, but the heater cores, they like to leak. So before I can test how bad this one is, I need to get a hose that goes from the heater valve there up to the heater core there. And I need a hose from that connection on the heater core to this bypass pipe right here. I have the heater hoses connected. It's time to put water into the system. I would not recommend putting anything but water into an unknown cooling system because it's probably going to leak. Sounds like it's leaking right now. Let's see what's going on. Yep, looks like the drain on the radiator is open. I hope that will actually shut. Feels like it's completely frozen solid. I will be surprised if I can turn this without breaking it. There we go. It is turning. Okay, let's try it that way. I'm really surprised that that valve didn't break. Usually when they've been sitting for a long time, you're not going to get them turned. I'm going to keep putting water in until it's full up here. And if it isn't leaking by that point, we'll start the engine up. Okay, the radiator's full now. Not hearing any leaks anywhere. So I just need to start it up, let it warm up, keep adding some water to keep it full. We'll see if there's any leaks. I will have to let it warm up until the thermostat opens, and then we should see it suck a bunch of water down. You can see the water is getting a little rusty colored. This will be great when I flush this out to put antifreeze back in. Well, I've cleaned the coolant system out and gotten some of this out of there. The thermostat must be opening a little bit now. I'm bringing the idle down because I think it was just cooling too much. The engine wasn't warming up there. The radiator and water pump were working too well. Well, I think that's it. I can't get the car to heat up more than 160 degrees, so the thermostat must be a 160 degree thermostat. And it looks like it's not leaking any water. So the water can be drained back out, refilled with coolant. And that's probably going to be it for this time. So if you want to see more videos like this, comment below and click subscribe.